Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And it's Friday, so it's 11 a.m. here on the East Coast. And as usual, I try to open up our chat room for your comments and questions, and we try to entertain them all. It's been my great pleasure to have my wife, Marcia, with me for about the past dozen or so of these Friday chats. She has something she needs to do today, so we excuse her, but she sends her regrets and looks forward to seeing you all again next week. Um, well, what's on your mind and what's on my mind? It's been quite a week. I titled this show Liberation Day with a question mark. It's very interesting. I haven't looked at the stock market yet today, but what's going to happen? How far is it going to fall? Uh, that's on a lot of people's minds, and maybe distracts from more serious things, more serious things that are happening in the world. The tendency toward war, the concentration of American forces in the Persian Gulf, and the attempt to perhaps pivot to Asia to do some uh, um, democracy building in Asia. That's the way to put it, isn't it? Well, we've certainly got a lot of experience at building democracies, have we not? Let's see if I can. All right. And if you want to join the chat, the best place is on the Rumble channel. It's called McDuff Lives, and it's all one word. And we've almost got 1,000 subscribers on that particular channel. So maybe you'll be number 1,000 if you go over there and push the follow button. And that way you'll get notifications of all of my shows. I, I I broadcast everything on that Rumble channel. I archive everything on BitChute Uncensored, which is a BitChute channel. I'm sorry, I misspoke. On BitChute, and the channel is McDuff Uncensored. And my shows go back there, I think, to the beginning of 2022. And so that's a great resource if you're looking for something I did in the past. Book readings, and there's a lot of playlists there too. So yeah, let's see. Well, here's our first contestant, Brightmore Dinosaur, and let's see what you are. Alex Mercouris called Trump's. Oh, you're not done yet. Well, I cited Alex Mercouris yesterday for saying exactly the title of my show. That is that this Liberation Day is the end of globalization. And if this is the end of globalization, then wow, that feels so good to think of that. And I can almost just kick back and watch from now on as all of these deep state constructions of our lifetimes are dis, im, dis, disassembled, either by Doge or just by the American people. Once politically the American people see the horrible subversion of our country in our lifetimes, then I think it'll be a new ball game. That still is the big problem, is that we can't attract anybody from the left, or the used to be left, which is now kind of a war party, if you ask me. These guys, they're so into their own echo chamber. They used to put conservatives in the echo chamber and call them ditto heads. And I remember the ditto heads of my time were like, yeah, I'm a ditto head. That was in the 80s. Well, I am not a ditto head, neither am I a supporter of any of these political parties, which are really just big gangs that try to control as much as they can, as long as they can. But yeah, to get back to the point, sorry, there you go. To get back to Brightmore's point, the end to globalization. Wow. So we wouldn't have to have covert wars anymore. We wouldn't have to have Abu Ghraibs, or we wouldn't have to do uh, false flag operations anymore. We wouldn't have to have uh, secret armies and secret military bases and trained assassins. We wouldn't have to have any of that because we'd be concentrating on our country, building up our country, making America, you know, great. If not again, then maybe for the first time. But the word "great" could apply if the will of the people is to be sovereign, to be a constitutional republic, to honor the legal system that we have set up, and to correct it when necessary through the constitutional process. The opportunity to do this will never come again. And yet, it's really, really tenuous and tentative. It's almost like the stock market question. Will this imposition of tariffs scare so many people against about out of the dollar because the dollar is going to go down? If you want to go to Europe, you better do it right now because the dollar is going to go down. And this is the whole idea of Trump's idea is, hey, it's all going to come back. We're going to have to take some pain right now, but man, when we re-energize this country, you know, the history, what we did in World War II, right? I mean, the whole country just went to war and built all the, ships and landing ships and airplanes and, millions of, of tanks and trucks and jeeps. Well, a tariff on automobiles, you know, rebuild the American auto industry. Are you kidding? I know a lot of guys that would love to have those jobs, if they were younger, I guess. But, it's i- it's an amazing thing how a growing economy can just keep on growing as long as we don't have, a lot of rules that restrict us. And this whole idea of keeping everybody in the cities has got to stop. I think we need towns. We need, maybe sizable towns and small cities, but these megalopolises are nothing but a melting pot for disease and intercultural disputes. And why not take up some more of our land? We've got this huge country. We don't even need Greenland. We don't even need to go to Alaska. We've got huge amounts of land. You know, how in the hell did we lose our family farms in the first place? How in the hell did we let everything go to Bill Gates or a Chinese front company or you know h- and what are we going to do about it? Well, the answer has got to start with the principle of sovereignty, that this country is not going to react to what happens outside of our country. That if the Russians or the Chinese or the anybody else, Macron or the the mighty German army want to take us on, well, that's going to happen then because we're sovereign. We're not going to do what they demand. The biggest problem that I see with it is what Catherine Austin Fitts points out, and that is that they have been sneaking money away from our economy for decades. She counts it at $21 trillion. If you remember Rumsfeld's September 10th, 2001 report from the Pentagon, can't find, what was it, $3 trillion or something. And then she and her team went and uh, uh, and got together with a college professor that did an analysis with their students, and they came up with another 12 or so trillion. And by the time that it was all added up, she's got $21 trillion. And she's the first thing she says about it, she's done a recent show, you can catch it on X. First thing she says about it is that's enough money to run an alternate civilization. An alternate civilization. And then the next thing she says is that there are so many of these underground military bases, you know, the DUMBs, right? The deep underground military bases, DUMBs, in the country and under the ocean offshore of the country. That there's over, I think she said 150 of them. Well, you know, if somebody's been spending $21 trillion or squirreling it away for future use, i.e. now, then our Liberation Day might start turning into a real opposite, a virtual, an enslavement day. Because if you consider the military technology that we can see, and imagine, you know, that if they say that they can do something in 10 years, that means they've done it 10 years ago. I believe that. A lot of people say that. It's just a kind of a common understanding about the DARPA and the CIA and the other secret stuff. And again, Catherine Austin Fitts makes the point, well, what can Trump do against the bankers? You know, the bankers, remember, they controlled his last administration, and they are in a position and they are controlling. She says he can't go outside of their boundaries, whatever they are. Maybe she's wrong, you know, but this is a person who's been studying this stuff much longer than you and I have. So watch the Catherine Austin Fitts, the most recent video of her. I'm sorry, I don't remember the podcaster that interviewed her, but yeah, it's pretty chilling. All right, let's get into our friends. Hi, Kevin. Hi, John. Hi, Kevin. Kevin Timmer, my friend. And it reminds me of Rush. Okay. Liberation Day, right? Okay. Rush, of course, the Ditto Heads. Mercouris said it and should spell the end of the World Trade Organization and the EU and possibly NATO. Again, you know, yeah, but if those institutions disappear, you know, all they're doing really is tearing up pieces of paper saying, oh, okay, there's no more NATO, no more WHO. But where's the money? That's what I think we need to be concerned about is, you know, I know that Trump is the only hope we had because we had, you know, we could not reelect the Democrats. That would have just been complete national suicide. But you know, Trump has a lot of baggage and a lot of connections that are probably very deep. And if he is as wonderful as he sounds, if he is actually just a puppet or an actor, you know, strutting the world stage on behalf of hidden interests that control him, then, you know, I would say Catherine Austin Fitz's $21 trillion alternate civilization should be a prime suspect. Hey, Corky Goss, globalism is not feasible before global centric is reached as a level of consciousness in greater numbers. integral theory moves from egocentric, nation-centric, global-centric. This makes sense to me. I kind of just want to say I agree with you. You know, the, the way I've been looking at it this past week is in the idea of the noosphere. And this noosphere, to be fair, has two different and I think radically different definitions. One of them by the Russian Vernadsky is simply the biosphere in which we are conscious of everything in the biosphere and how it all interacts. It's more complicated than that, but it's benign in my opinion. Whereas the noosphere, as projected by Teilhard de Chardin, is basically the internet connected to everybody's brain and perhaps not even wired, perhaps just that somehow they have created an atmosphere in which our thoughts are shared, and we can access others' thoughts, and that this becomes, quite a, humanity, writ large, that we all are like part of again, and then it goes to the Borg, doesn't it? Resistance is futile. Yeah. So the future is both futile and futile. Doesn't look good. We have to account for the money. Where's the money? Brightmore Dinosaur, hello again. Jeffrey Sachs, professor of sustainable development at Columbia. Don't you love sustainable? Man, that's my favorite thing. I have it for breakfast every day. Sustainable breakfast. Is very opposed to the tariffs and says Trump is unconstitutionally imposing tariffs that only Congress can impose and regulate. Okay. Kevin Timmer, over 2 trillion. I think that goes back to the earlier comment by me. Reestablishing nation states in Europe is vitally important to sovereignty, and mass deportation of immigrants is critical to sovereignty. Boy, Europe is a mess, isn't it? And with these tariffs, I mean, it's just incredible that the whole point of American foreign policy, starting with the Marshall Plan, has been to keep the Germans down, America in, and Russia out. But then there came a time when NATO and the Atlantic Council and the banks that operate through them said, no, let's Germany up, Russia down. And America, well, they lost America. Why in the world would America give up Europe? We had it in our arms. We had the whole market. We had everything. That was what the Marshall Plan was all about. That's why we stationed troops all over, Germany and Austria and, everywhere, in Italy. That's why we formed the Gladio units. That's why we took down the Communist Party in Israel, in Italy and other places. That's why we have used every dirty trick in the book to control Europe. And now we're ready to walk away. It's mind-boggling. Reestablishing nation states is not going to happen in Europe, I don't think, Brightmore. It's just too uh, it's too screwed up financially for anything positive to emerge unless there's some type of chaos first that destroys the existing burden, the debt on everybody in Europe. No strong nations, no strong and peaceful planet. Okay, all right. Takes large, powerful nation to keep the planet peaceful. Um, that's it, isn't it? That's the question. I always think maybe I'm a dreamer, but could we not uh, imagine, along with you know, our dead prophets, you know, why not give peace a chance? Be nice to see a splinter net. Okay. 21 trillion seconds is over 665,000 years. Yeah. So if they spend $1 a second, it would take them 665,000 years to spend $21 trillion. Is that crazy or what? And yet we let them we let them just siphon it off. I mean, we've been sitting back, fighting between ourselves. Oh God, Trump is orange. Trump is a pig. And Biden is an idiot. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They don't care. They're just enjoying seeing us fight each other. It's like my friend Sean Ross at Jure says. It's not between the left and right. It's between the top and the bottom. And when the bottom finally gets the message, uh, that's that's when progress can be made. When we stop fighting amongst ourselves and look at where the real problem comes from. It's the people that steal everything. It's the ones that don't play by the rules. It's the destruction of sovereignty. It's the use of financial development instruments to control societies for forever. And Brightmore, Splinternet, alternative to our current algo-driven censorship. Okay, yeah, something really actually friendly to the common person on the internet. Wouldn't that be something? I'd probably have more followers, and I'm sure a lot of people would. Brightmore says the Chabad control Trump. Okay. Imagine that. It says there was an article in January 2020 that claimed the Pentagon in December 2019 was missing $35 trillion. Okay. That's how they finance the 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 civilization under Antarctica, where all the um, uh, frozen people are going to come from when they pop out, with their extremely white skin and blonde hair, and they'll be, oh, we were down there all this time, we couldn't come out because we had to develop all of our technology to save mankind. But now we've figured it out, and we're here. So and it's great to shake off that ice and come back out in the sunshine like our what great great grandparents did in 1943. Okay. You can call that my April Fool's joke. Yep, no tariffs on Russia, says Brightmore. He did on Israel, exporter of Pharmaceuticals to USA. Now that isn't that there's another one. See that it's like they're giving us hope that this pharmaceutical thing is gonna go down. Um, man, there's so much uh, pain is going to come to people that have believed in the medical system when they finally find out that it's just been another system of ripping us off and controlling us and playing with our genes to see if they can find a way to create their designer humans. They're doing that. Come on. I mean, they're doing it. That's probably down in the dumps where they have their great labs. I don't even want to think about it. Interesting to hear former Colombo family mobster Michael Francese take on JFK. I didn't hear it. Francese says CIA worked with the CIA to whack JFK. Well, that makes sense. And I wonder if there any gold in the fort. You know, this is so interesting too because it all goes back to the 1890s, the Fabians and the people that in Europe that are working on the synarchist idea of controlling everything, through the wise and wealthy families of old Europe that know the most about how to run societies. And so anyway, taking control, uh, how did they manage to have all the money flowing into their Swiss bank accounts is the answer. And that's gold, right? Well, they invented these gold certificates. And so instead of actually having to put the gold on the ship and ship it across the ocean and train it to the vault of the purchaser or the nation that owns it, it still sits in the vault where it was, and the nation gets this certificate in their hand. And so that represents all of that gold. And while the parties that belong to this and the Bank of International Settlement was created in order to clear these gold bond statements, and as well as launder other financial things. The point of the gold stuff is that if we all agree that these certificates are actually valuable as gold, then we have this incredible advantage over everybody else who would have to physically mine the gold, carry it somewhere, put it in, have a lot of expenses around it, as well as uh, the scarcity of it makes this into a cartel of people who own these gold certificates, and they trust each other to honor the gold certificates and protect each other's interest in gold certificates, so that it becomes a way to draw all of the money into gold certificates and then hide it from take it out of the economy. So this idea of is there any gold in the fort is a very good question, because we've been depending upon these gold certificates for over a century. And but it is interesting that one of the facts about uh, the USS Nashville, which was my father's ship, was that before the U.S. joined the war, we actually transferred. I'm sorry, excuse me a second. Transferred a number of tons of gold to London secretly on the USS Nashville. And I always think about that. Why did we do that? I never did figure it out. But that was the actual physical transfer of gold, and interesting that it happened right, while Britain. I don't remember if they were actually fighting yet, or it was during the phony war, but it was sometime along in there. I'd have to look it up. But yeah, my dad's ship he wasn't on it yet, but that was the secret ship for doing a lot of secret stuff. All right. And CIA works with the mob. Right. Two thumbs up. Two thumbs up, Deborah. Good to see you. By the way, I had an email exchange with our friend Carol McIntosh about June the 6th of this year's coming up, and that's the anniversary of my father's death. In Ireland, they might call it his birthday in heaven. And I I will not be organizing any type of a charrette this year, just due to a lot of personal things going on. And however, I think we can plan to do one next year in 2026. So that gives us a lot of time to do some good planning and to put together a really nice event for the hundred and no for the 55th anniversary of my dad's passing on June 6th, 1971. And I thank everyone that came to our event on June 2021, the 100th anniversary. Um, I had a film crew there that has put together a presentation, and I will plan to play that this year. I haven't played it publicly yet, so that's something that we can do together. Maybe have a Zoom meeting with those that would like to pop in and say hello. Well, anyway, that'll be June 6th this year, but next year, I think we can do a proper celebration of my dad's life, and I hope everybody can join us then. Right, Corky wants the ether back. Well, it's almost ether, isn't it? Maybe the ether bunny will show up. Sam Giancana's crew were involved in a JFK hit and mob, and Francese fingers a CIA security guard for killing RFK. A CIA security guard. I wonder who. Your name is John. Yeah, it is. All right. Everybody's saying hi to everybody. Hello, everybody. Glad you're all here. Oops, sorry there, Polly. Let's see what you got. Polly's here. CFR promoted interdependency away with sovereignty is their credo. Right. The Council of Foreign Relations. And that's exactly right. I mean, the idea of actually turning towards sovereignty it must be just so strange to all the people that have become seduced into this globalist mindset. The mindset that this interacted humanity in the future is going to be great, and we're uh, you know I don't listen to David Icke much, but I used to for a while. And one of the things he says is, it's a two-way street. If you can use the cloud, then the cloud can use you. Um, it's just insane. Trump shakes the box. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you have to shake the prune tree. The world needs to grow up or in regarding human development. Yeah, I think we need to spread out over the planet. I think, this concentration in cities is really bad for us. And um, although people that live in cities, a lot of them love it. That's just exciting and the lights and the Broadway shows and all. But it's artificial. It's not real, and it's completely dependent upon the interactive transportation system, the food flight in from South America or China, or I mean, it's crazy. We should have local food, local civil affairs government, you know, local control over resources like water and, well, I could go on. But, the answer is fine. You need to have a great umbrella of protection over all of these smaller communities, but it should be basically irrelevant to what goes on in those communities, where we have to accept the idea that we are all equal and we are all citizens and entitled to have a voice. And that's on us, but they sure have finessed it away. Brightmore asks, have you looked at Peter Duke's Substack on the Star Within the Circle network, revealing the 3,000-year-old Kabbalist network still running the show? Cool. Yeah. I love studying the Kabbalah, and as you know, and studying my dad's life, I can see some numerology things that really strike me as wow. Not that I don't believe in astrology or Kabbalah as predictive of the future, but I do believe in it as a method of control that people behind the scenes might use. In other words, my father's date of birth, uh, 3/21/1920. If you do the simple numerology on that, it turns out to 333. You know, well, maybe they can use that to say, you see, this was a 333 guy, and that that explains his fate. You could say that in hindsight, but as far as it predicting the future, no. Uh, but yeah, Peter Duke does wonderful work. I really liked his work on uh, logos, or the word. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but he did a good essay or two uh, on Jesus and what is the word and the idea of the logos. It's fascinating and beautifully written. We're making progress, ascending toward the spirit. Tariffs have the potential to reduce mortgage costs. I'm not sure I can see that, but that's just because I don't know how that would work. In MHO, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. A Kabbalah has a simple message, badly mangled over time. The non-physical and physical are connected, easy, no smelly robes. Okay. Oh, there's our friend Jansen Brown. Good day to you, Jansen. Oh, Deborah has something to share with me. Well, definitely PM me on X then, and we'll figure that out. Sounds nice. Goods and currency, then currency becomes a good. Yeah, right, right. One of the things that I was intrigued by when I interviewed Guido Preparata, the author of a number of really interesting books about, well, from World War II to now, and the imposition of fascism all over the place, and his hope for really the same thing I was talking about, only without the big umbrella, that really are just a general agreement over the whole world that we're all going to live in peace. We're going to have uh, 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 little civilizations here and there and all over the place. Uh, and, like I would say, just figure out economically how to be self-sufficient in a reasonable number of people, and it might vary from different geographic places. You might need more of this in Alaska than you do in Arizona, for instance, or you might be able to do it with less people or more people. But the idea of having a solid community that can self-sustain forever, and then not worry about getting attacked by the other communities around you, that would be, I think, the ideal resolution to all of this mutually assured destruction policy that we've been using to allow all of the globalization that we started off the show talking about. Hello, Donald Piasek. And your comment, Stephen Jacobson made Mind Control in America audio series. Okay. And it's an eye-opener. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, Kathy O'Brien, to me, I don't study her as hard as I should. Maybe 5 years ago, I read a lot of her stuff, but I believe her. This whole trauma-based mind control. I know there's a lot of other kinds of mind control, but the trauma-based is horrible. Used to find silver certificate. Yeah, my mother was good at finding those. She had some. Not sure what happened to them. Right, with the red seal on them. Charles is here. Yep, this is a big problem, isn't it? It's Brightmore dinosaurs. Sovereignty also depends on financial independence. Obviously, a goal of BRICS is to thwart global petrodollar control. Yeah, they're not going to, though. I mean, they can't. They just don't have the power to do it any more than Russia has the power to conquer Western Europe. Uh, they just don't have the financial power. And look at this $21 trillion as a kind of a reserve fund, and even go beyond that and consider how much money is under the control of the British royal family, or the Rothschilds, or maybe that's the same thing, or the City of London. It's got to be hundreds and hundreds of trillions of dollars. So fighting against that empire, um, that's a big challenge. And to listen to Trump, he's taking them on, and that means that we're going to have to withdraw our currency from the world currency. And how are we going to do that? Well, I'm sure Trump is going to have some kind of an idea, and uh, but for us to do what he wants to do, we're going to have to crunch those banks that own all the shares in the derivatives and the crazy investments that have been traded back and forth in lightning split time for the past 50 years, and have a kind of a jubilee, and declare all a certain class of paper to be worthless, declare a certain transactions to be void, and stick to it, and reestablish a sound currency for the United States. But I forgot what I was going to say about Guido Preparata's work, and this is it. He was talking about how currency in some models uh, in the past expired after a certain time. You know how you get a gift card and it says expiration date, June 2028, you know, and it'll then become worthless. Well, I believe, is recommending that we use that kind of currency so that it can't be hoarded, so that it has to be spent. Because that's what currency is really for, is to facilitate the exchange of goods and services. It's not there to be a good in and of itself, like Corky was saying. And, read Ezra Pound on currency, and realize that these alternate ideas are nothing but schemes like gold certificates and uh, uh, the idea, Klaus Schwab, he's stepping down, fine, but his idea was we were going to own nothing at all, and we'd have to rent everything. And that, of course, is the imperial dream, that they can just have their civilization and, live on, wherever they want to. If they see a place like, New Orleans, where they'd like to have their places instead of the ones that are living there, or maybe Gaza or Palisades, California, they just say, well, geez, I guess somehow somebody's going to get rid of it, and magically it falls into their laps, and they say, oh, this is what I wanted. Well, they can live their civilization as long as we are stuck to this over printed, overburdened, over borrowed dollar. But to bring the dollar down in a hurry, that is frightening. And more hellos to everyone, Jansen. I have a friend, O'Loughlin, down in Australia. I have a couple of O'Loughlin kinfolk over down there in Australia, or I guess, I guess we can call it down there under. I met them in Ireland in the O'Loughlin clan reunions that we've gone to. I've been to 3 of them now, and it's always a pleasure to meet O'Loughlins from all over the world. BRICS countries developing their own block-based currency. Yeah, that's what they say, but again, it's kind of hard to believe that the existing financial powers are going to let them get away with actually having a currency. That's the interesting thing about Bitcoin too, is that Bitcoin is not used for currency. Now, what good is it if it's not being used for currency? Why would we want to have a wallet full of Bitcoin when you can't spend it? You can trade it. You can make money as a trader, but isn't it going to have to die at some point if it's not used as a currency? That this is what we need. Those gold certificates are like currency for big guys. This is like the big dollar things. I guess the guys that have that can buy a $5 million gold citizenship from Donald Trump, right? Well, that kind of currency, those gold certificates, facilitates them ripping us off. And, paper certificates that can be hoarded do the same thing. But to use paper certificates that run out of value after a year or 2 years or 90 days or something like that. Well, that means, if you can use those to exchange goods and services and make payments, then that money's going to keep churning and flying through the economy. And that's what makes things work. That's what makes it better is when everybody is exchanging currency, because that means that they're working. That means they're building things. That means that they are providing valuable services in some way, instead of just trying to play the game until they have enough money that they can just kick back and and cigars and brandy and beautiful women or men. Under the Articles of Confederation, says Donald Piasek, each state was like a separate country. Mike Gaddy is someone everyone should check out and listen to for some true hidden history. Yeah. Well, the whole problem with Confederation, it was the problem with the American Continental Congress Confederation. It just did not have enough money to provide for the common defense of the country. You didn't have a way to finance things like building warships. And in a real world, if you want to maintain your sovereignty against powers like Great Britain, you better have some warships. So this is why I think Alexander Hamilton did the right thing. And well, we have to do a whole show on that sometime. But everybody I just don't see the Southern Articles of Confederation working either. Look what happened to the currency, okay? Duke's Substack, this is the one about the circle and the pentagram, shows us where we have been and where we need to go. Okay. Okay, Corky's now going to use my Ether Bunny. Jansen says, only way they would reduce mortgages is via interest rates. I guess the housing crisis is bad. Nobody says housing crisis anymore, but people who would like to start on that American dream, I guess Australian dream too. A lot of times it involves the desire to buy a house, and mortgage rates right now are not so good. And if you are going to borrow, at a significant percentage, then you're kind of making a bet that there's just going to be more inflation, and at some point, your loan is going to look like a good loan to people who are now paying more than you. I don't know how it works. I really don't know how it works, but I understand the desire to make mortgages affordable again. 333 is 1/3. Yeah. The 1/3 of Satan's angels who were cast out of heaven. Okay. The 333 that I think of is the kind of the mafia idea, or the good cop, bad cop idea of, when you have that 333 tattoo on your arm, then you belong to some kind of secret Masonic police force, for instance. But in any event, it is a very significant number to alchemy and to uh, numerology and to uh, Kabbalah. Kabbalah. Tariffs will speed up reindustrialization. That's it. I hope so. I hope so. Which is needed due to the depopulation of China. Or is it deep? I'm not sure what you're saying there. So 333 is Satan's helper. So they thought my dad might have been a Satan's helper, and so he turned out not to be, and so they got rid of him. Yeah, it makes sense. That's the kind of thing that they do. I think they do come up with these ideas that let's look at numbers and see what we can find to justify what we end up doing. I'm not sure, Koki, what that is. Jansen says, my pet goat. Yeah, let's all see my pet goat again. That's a great idea. Well, what about my pet goat 2, the kind of digitally produced cartoonish show that has all these fantastic images in it? Boy, you want to delve into some Masonic stuff. Look at the images in My Pet Goat 2, and that was good 5 or 10 years ago when I was watching that. It was a long time ago, but it's definitely worth seeing if you haven't seen My Pet Goat 2. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Will Trump shoot himself in the foot by going to war with Iran for Israel? I don't know, man. I don't think he is going to do something for Israel. I think he's going to what he does is going to be controlled by the people that control him, which I don't think is Israel. I think it is the the Dulles, uh, Sullivan and Cromwell major corporate cartels that that are the official oligarchs of America, the corporate cartels, as they speak through their lawyers like Sullivan and Cromwell and Allen Dulles. Hello, Colleen. Nice to hear from you. Iran a smokescreen for if they put all the what was it 6 or 7 of those stealth bombers, the ones that look like this that flying wedge on the island of Diego Garcia, and that's within range of Iran, but it's also must be in range of China, or else they'll have other things. A good point. It could be. Charles, I agree. Kathy O'Brien, yeah. Hello, Prester John. BRICS is alt neoliberalism. It's not the same. It's not some benevolent force. Okay, I kind of agree with you. Jansen Rush, yeah, shipping companies, yeah. Well, even when you think about Aristotle Onassis in the time of Kennedy's death and the power of the shipping companies, of course, now Evergreen being Hillary's code name, as well as the name of a huge Chinese shipping conglomerate whose cargo containers you can see in any port any day you like. And Brightmore, I think, gets the last word. It's noon. Hollywood made the Manchurian Candidate to show mind control of a man. Let's see Hollywood make a movie of the making of female monarch butterflies by the satanic ritual abuse practiced by the elites. Well, yeah, it's very, very sad. And I've studied that stuff. I was studying that stuff before I met George Webb and turned toward my father's career. And I absolutely do believe in these, the things with the circle around the eye and all the uh, the mind control, which is traumatic, trauma-based mind control, that creates these puppets, and very sad. Oh, let's let Fern Henley get the last word. And it's nice to hear from you, Fern. Glass-Steagall reinstated is part of stabilization of currency. Yep, 1930 to 1990, it worked. I agree. Can we force those banks to separate the good financial productive investments from the speculative craziness again, the way it used to be? Uh, that might take an army or two to do that. But again, if our country could do that, it would be a great step towards stabilizing our currency, as well as forcing all of those crazy investment houses, et cetera, into bankruptcy, because there's no way that their books are ever going to balance. And it's just obvious to everyone. It's like saying the emperor has no clothes, but nobody's willing to say it. All right. Sounds like Marcia's home, so I'll call it right here. See you guys on Monday. I look forward to getting back to you with Marcia next week, Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And thanks everyone for being with me, and thanks for your support at our Patreon or on my Substack. A lot of folks have joined over there at the Substack as well. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.